Hi, everybody. My name is Will Hallewell. I'm the author of this book, Gazore, and it is my first book published through EMSA Publishing. I'm very proud of it. And for those of you who may be on the fence about whether or not you would be interested in this book or think it would be good for your kids, today I'm going to read a little bit of a segment from the book, and then you can make up your minds from there. I'll be using the Kindle version so I'm not awkwardly flipping pages. So, without further ado, here is the first section of my book, Gazore. Doug. Before everything, the mall, Kim, the electricity, the box of brains, the tag checker dude, Gazore, Chicalito, there was this. Gazore! Gazore! That strange word ran through my head over and over again. I could feel the pain in my temple as my head felt like it was about to explode. Gazore! Gazore! It rang through the air, over and over again, the pitch of the words increasing, as if they were being sung by a soprano at the Met, performing her aria. How did I know about arias? I didn't know that either, but I somehow had picked it up somewhere, and now my brain had pieced the pieces together. She stood in front of me, her horn-endowed helmet on her head as she screamed, I would say it was screaming, not singing, to the darkened auditorium. Her face was red, and her body shook with the crescendos of the music. Gazore! Gazore! The audience leaped to their feet in applause, and shouts of brava filled the air. Gazore! I felt the auditorium begin to shake. The soprano's face turned ghostly white and began to melt away. Her eyes shrunk, and her body began to waste away until it took on the appearance of a small boy. Gazore? A question this time. Again, the shaking. Gazore? Doug! More shaking, and I snapped open my eyes, my mind clearing from its dream state and focusing on my little brother, Sebastian. Doug, come on. Let's go do something. Let's at least go to the store. I'm really flippin' bored. Oh, yeah, I was in charge. I forgot. Something large, golden, and fuzzy jumped up onto my lap as I tried to avoid the dizziness that came with sitting up quickly, and I subconsciously pet Zach's head. Sebastian, who I swear had been right there, was gone. Gazore? What the heck was Gazore? Little did I know that word was an omen of things to come, and that it would haunt my dreams and my every waking moment for the rest of my life. To the mall. Mother had gone out of town that day, and I was left watching my brother. To say we were bored would be an understatement. There was literally nothing to do. I couldn't come up with one good idea, one game we could play, one movie we could watch, one cat video on the internet that we could view on my phone to make us laugh. It was utterly ridiculous. If, on the other hand, we'd done what my mom suggested, we would have stayed there all day and dust, 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 dust. Clean, 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 clean. And I am allergic to brooms. I sighed as I sat back on the couch with my golden retriever, Zach, on my lap. He shed as I petted his back, getting hair everywhere. Hair I'd probably have to eventually clean up. Did I mention that I was allergic to brooms? Now, for you dog lovers out there, let me tell you a little bit about Zach. Zach comes from a shelter, but he's quite a nice dog. He follows me all over the place, jumping up and licking my face when I sit down, playing fetch, poorly, drooling on the floor when it's hot. He's a great dog, and his wet licks are fun and make me laugh hard, but on that particular day, he wasn't filling the void in my life. My brother and I wanted something to do, something that would ease our strife, something that would ease our boredom. I stood up and stretched, briefly forgetting what had been going on, and Zach fell off of my lap onto the floor with a thud. He looked up at me with sad, droopy eyes, and I reached down and petted the top of his head. I'm sorry, buddy, but you have to stay. This day's for the guys. I have to say that he looked up at me rather sadly, but he seemed to understand, at least as much as a dog could understand. Come on, Sebastian, I yelled up the stairs, a little flustered that he didn't seem to want to answer. Again, I could have sworn that it was he who had been bugging me to go to the store with him. Sebastian! What's up? He called back to me in a sarcastic tone of voice. What do you want? "Let's go to the mall," I shouted right back to him. "There's bound to be something to see there." "Yeah, like what? Clothes, shoes, cell phone cases that we don't need, stuff seen on TV?" "I don't want to go to the mall, Doug. Can't I just stay here and play my game?" "What game? Donkey Kong?" "How old are you, Doug? Donkey Kong is a relic from the past. This is Grand Theft Auto. Get with the times." "You know Mom wouldn't let you play that game if she knew you were doing it. Now come on, let's go before I rat you out." I was only 18 and I couldn't stand what Sebastian was playing on his TV. If I were his father, which essentially I am since our father is, well, let's just say he's gone, he wouldn't be playing those games. I'm one of the exceptions to the rule kids who thinks that being outside is way more fun than sitting in front of a game console all day shooting virtual people. It was only a few seconds later that Sebastian stomped down the steps, his shoes in his hands and his hair a mess. A scowl had crossed his face, and I was certain that he was going to stay there permanently. "This had better be good," he barked at me, and I turned and walked away from him. "Put your shoes on and let's see," I replied with what I wanted to be a smile, but what was probably a scowl. The kid sure was moody for only being 8. I started toward the kitchen and the door that led to the garage. I listened to Sebastian's sigh, then flopped down on the couch to put on his shoes. I watched as he laced his shoes and then slugged his way over to me. He waved his hand in a "let's go" gesture, and I gave him a half smile and opened the door. We stepped outside into the garage. Now, it wasn't my car that was in the garage. That was a one-car space reserved for Mom. But the garage did lead to the gravel spot that was attached to the driveway for my car. A car any kid of 18 would more than approve of. A shimmering gold Firebird. When I say any kid, I mean a kid who doesn't mind cars from the 80s that have a bit of rust and chug gasoline like it was water in the desert. Still, it was a set of wheels, and that's what I needed at my age, a good set of wheels. We said goodbye to Zach, pulled the door closed, and were in the car in no time. The sun was already beating down on my car, making the inside unbearable, but in a few minutes we'd be cruising down the street toward the mall and clothes and shoes and stuff we didn't need, the heat blowing out of the open windows like the wind. Who am I to write a story, you ask? Why should you believe a word of what I say? Well, mostly because I was there. I was there at just about the beginning, and I've seen most of what happened. Put that together with some other eyewitness accounts and you get a story. You see, one of my loves is writing. Usually I write poetry like One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. You know, that one by Dr. Seuss. My dad used to read that to me all the time before bed. He loved it almost as much as me, truth be told. The characters were funny, and Seuss's books often had a deep moral plot that, even if you didn't realize it, made you think about right and wrong. I may slip into poetry in this story once in a while, so bear with me if I do. Ever since I've been able to write, I've been writing poetry. I can't draw, so I have to write. I also play guitar. Poorly. I try to write music too, but that's another story for another time. Writing, playing my guitar, and entertaining my little brother, that's pretty much my existence. Me, at 18. So exciting. But I'm not here to tell you about my hobbies or my boring teenage existence. I'm here to tell you about the mall. Why don't we just start there? The mall that we head for is 10 miles away. We laugh and we talk and we sing. Bastian, he stares out the window beside him. He's wonder-eyed at everything. I was 10 years old when Sebastian was born. "Uh-oh," said my mom and my dad. But I didn't uh-oh. Not me, not at all. What I said was, "Yay!" I was glad. Before he was born, I was here all alone. My parents had no time for kids. Work, work, and more work had kept us all apart. Our lives had all started to skid. But little Sebastian came into the world with love in his tiny bright eyes. My mom and my dad were both forced to slow down. I smiled then. Welcome back, guys. Now we are best of friends, my brother and me. We venture out into it all. But we never did see it coming. Not this. Not what we both found at the mall. See, there's some light poetry, harmless. You made it through without passing out or having a conniption, didn't you? If not, I'm sorry. Conniptions are a hard thing to recover from. Anyway, we got to the mall. We established that much. I always park by the food court if I can because it's the easiest landmark to find in the mall. Everyone can see the food court from a long distance away, so when the legs are tired at the end of the day, you see the food court and you know your car is bound to be close by. So we parked at the food court, where there was good food in all directions. The smells were quite strong on both sides, not to mention wafting through the corridors beyond the food court. Despite all that, the samples of Chinese food they gave out were the best. Chicken or beef in that tangy sauce was like food nirvana. Most times I don't get the whole meal, but every time I get the free sample. And every time, the free sample makes me want to get the whole meal. I took the free sample offered to me, and as I lifted my toothpick, sucked out the juice, and then chewed up the sweet and sour soaked meat, Sebastian called after me. I'd been paying so much attention to the culinary delight that was the sweet and sour chicken that I hadn't realized he had already gone way past the food court. "Hey, bro," he called to me. I turned my head to see him standing in the corridor just in front of some cell phone store. Thank goodness he called me. If he somehow got lost, I don't know what I'd do or who I'd even call. I caught quickly up to him, saw he was smiling from ear to ear. "Come on, old man," he said with a chuckle. "You'd never be any good in a race." Together we walked past the myriad of stores passing by in such a flow that the rhythm of our feet on the carpet and tiles, along with the passing of the stores, inspired this little ditty. "Let us look at the toys," my brother proclaimed. "Let's not. Say we did," I replied. He gave me a look of the sad, drooping kind. I shrugged, smiled, and muttered, "I tried." We passed the electronics, blankets and phones, the shoes, pasta makers, and more. Have a smoothie, a cookie, and so much more. All this on the way to a store. I know that sounds a bit mushy, but I really do love my younger brother. He's a better version of me, and I'd do anything for him. Anything at all, including going to the mall to look at toys. I know they're toys, and I should love them. Who doesn't love toys? But my gold Firebird is higher on my list these days. My Firebird and finding people to hang out in it with me. That's something I lack right there. Someone to hang out in it with. The rhythm of our steps continued. "Toys, toys, toys!" Bastian screamed when entering the store. He ran and I walked steps behind. Vanished in a flash, leaving me standing there, noise driving me out of my mind. I looked for a minute and then turned around and spied something new and quite neat. Across the main concourse, a carpet away, lay the future, and it was sweet. Sweet it was. At least it looked sweet. And from where I was across the concourse before the suspicion began, I was enchanted as any 8-year-old would be. Come on, you would be too. Those creatures, just sitting there in their docile, I admitted, I looked that up, state. And to be able to bring one to life, really, really to life? I need to slow down. I'm getting ahead of myself. Where was Sebastian? I looked for him down each aisle, passing mothers with strollers, strollers on rollers and rollers, rollers even in hair. Despite my efforts, I looked away for 1 second and he was nowhere to be found. "Come on, Sebastian, where did you go?" I kind of yelled as I looked through the aisles. There were other boys playing silly games, but I could not find Bastian's smile among them. He'd probably hid in the trucks or the games he'd probably stow in the bears. I wasn't exactly sure where he had gone, but wherever it was, he's there. In aisle 1 there were dolls, Barbie, Skipper, and Ken. In 2 there was Scrabble and Pit. In 3 electronics and baseballs and bats. In 4 action figures, not it. 5, 6, and 7 Bass was also not there. 8 was the one that betrayed him. There in the aisle with the video games, Sebastian was pounding out rhythm. A drum sat on the ground between his 2 legs. A bongo, I think was its name. Bastian hit and punched and he banged really hard. Not music, but some kind of game. I was sure that the heavy sigh I elicited, again I looked it up, created a heavy wind enough to knock over any display in the store. But everything stayed right where it was, and for that I was glad because I had enough to worry about. Still, staring at Sebastian with the fright of losing him still on my face, I could only come up with nice things to say. "Come on, let's go, buddy," I called out to him. "I have something way cool to show you." I started to walk out of the store, hoping that my idle threats of leaving him there would startle him into leaving the bongo behind and follow me, but he didn't follow my lead. Instead, he simply called out after me like a spoiled brat, wanting things he knows he's never going to get. "Doug, let's buy Clue." "What?" I replied. "You want a board game? You won't ever play a board game. Why don't you come with me and I'll show you something way cooler?" And it was cooler. Way cooler than Clue, for sure. Did I mention creatures? Did I mention bringing them to life? What kid wouldn't want to do that? Well, Sebastian wasn't buying what I was selling. "What is it?" he asked as he stared up at me, wide-eyed and eager, but an uncertain nervousness had gotten the best of him, and he was back to banging on the drum again, this time ruthless and hard. He was like a crazed maniac, that kid. I don't know why, but I think he was afraid I was going to take him from the short respite of playing with the toys and make him do something else, boring. Dr. Seuss immediately comes to mind for what happened next. Organized chaos. "Come on, hurry up, I don't want to miss it." I grabbed up his banging drum hand. He stood on his feet and looked down and then up, then followed me through the toyland. We passed all the parents with runny-nosed kids. We passed games and toys and then balls. We pushed our way back through the way we had come and soon found our way to the hall. I then kept on treading across the wide rug. Bastian tried to catch my big feet. I crisscrossed my way through all of the people, and soon there were others to greet. "Hi there," said a girl standing in the doorway. Her tag had a name. It read Kim. I smiled and looked, drawing a square on my shirt. "My name's Doug, and Bastian, that's him." Let me say here for the record, this Kim girl was hot. At first I thought maybe with a little of my charm and my good looks, I'd have her number. The way she bent down to look at my brother, however, her voice almost like a song, made me quickly realize that I was not her target. "Hi, Sebastian." Kim looked as she smiled and said in a warble that unnerved me. She bent at her knees and then came down to him, allowing the young boy to see. Her smile was so large it seemed kind of funny. Sebastian backed quickly away. He looked at the sign and tried hard to read it, but things were not going his way. "What is this place?" he asked me, quite confused. Kim smiled as she looked up at me. I looked one more time at the letters above. "Create a creature," I could see. "Create a creature, Bastian," she smiled and said. "Come in, and I'll show you around." She took young Sebastian quite quickly away, his feet barely touching the ground. I carefully watched as he started to go, then I followed quickly behind. I listened as Kim told Sebastian the things that drove kids right out of their minds. Now, I'm not a prude by any stretch of the imagination, but those things even made the bells and whistles, well, maybe the alarms, go off in my 18-year-old head. Suddenly, I was my mother, and I wanted to take Sebastian by the hand and run from the store. Kim had turned from the girl whose number I had wanted just moments ago to evil disguised in brown hair and blue eyes. I opened my mouth to speak, but she beat me to it. The music in her voice was so sickeningly sweet that I almost covered my ears to protect myself from her siren song. "First there's the creature. Do you want boy or girl? There are the hands, the feet, and the skin. There are clothes and a hat and a shirt and some pants and the head where the brain goes in." "Stop the presses!" I stuttered. I stammered. What did she just say? The head where the brain goes in? I couldn't believe it. It just didn't make any sense. The eerie words seemed to crawl across my skin, up my back, and into my ears, where her voice resonated, looked it up, over and over again like an echo on a mountainside. The brain goes in. The brain goes in. The brain goes in. Of course there was a head. I mean, come on, but a brain? An actual brain? Their story continued. That's where I'm going to leave it. So, again, the book is called Gazore. And I hope this video helped you out. Hope it made you a little bit interested. You can purchase it anywhere online on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. So thank you for tuning in. And again, I hope you enjoy the book. My name is Will Hallewell. Thank you.